Operational excellence is really about consistency, right? And predictability in what you're delivering. Kind of like we alluded to before, without a best practice or an expectation or an understanding of how we typically want to do business, moving to a tech stack or an enterprise solution becomes very difficult. Sometimes it can just result in chaos. The other element of this that I find and probably holds true for me is because we do have a set of best practices, we understand what good looks like. It allows us to also go above and beyond that and kind of explore for ourselves. And so anybody can kind of bring a value-added improvement or a different way of doing thing. And I think the ability to know you can have direct impact back to the business, because we're kind of that ever-improving, continuous learning type of culture, I think that really helps people stay. It makes a happier workplace, and I think it improves retention.
Oh yeah, I mean, you have that clear North Star, and I like how you mentioned, what good looks like, because you have to define that for your organization. If you haven't thought about what your achieved outcome is, whether you're picking a piece of technology or focusing on a specific project, it's hard to push people in the same direction in a way that has focus and I think the ROI that everybody's anticipating. And so that's when your failed technology deployment starts to shape up.
Yes. Yes.
So since tech does play such a big part in your work, can you tell me what key questions you ask yourself or your team when considering adopting new technology or software or new processes? What does that look like?
Yes. So there are a lot, and we probably don't even have them all covered. But some basic ones, well, the very basic one is we look at their security and compliance, right? Not our team, but we have a team to go to say, before we even want to start talking to this vendor, did they meet our basic security minimum requirements?
And more companies need to be doing that. I don't think it's a conversation that is being had often enough, because there are a lot of risks in the security thing, which we can park for a minute because I think that's a big one to unpack, but it's huge. And so it's good to hear that, there's an intentional focus there.
There is, and what's really good we're finding from our vendors is they might not meet it at that day and time, but they're really open to feedback and understanding what they have to do. And they come back in a couple months or a couple years, and once they worked through that themselves.
Yeah.
The other one is from a process side, we really need to understand, is there a process we're trying? What is the core problem? I think that's become a big conversation lately, is understanding the problem you're needing to be solved. What's the gap, instead of kind of bringing the solution first? It's, there's a lot of shiny new things, and I cringe sometimes because it creates a lot more work on our side to bring people back, kind of baseline what it is we're trying to do, figure out the requirements, right? And then find a tech to provide the solution to really what the problem is. So those are some of the questions. I think who the users are, understanding why, because we have to explain that. I think you said earlier, you can't just drop a new tech on somebody and say, go use this,
Surprise,
right?
this will make your workflow better. And they go, how?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Or nobody asked me, right?
Yep. Which is a huge problem too, because if you don't have that conversation, they don't feel like they're a part of the process.
Right.
And that's a problem.
And that is a huge problem. And so we try to be really, really deliberate about getting feedback from all the user groups, the stakeholders, doing conference room pilots, real pilots, proof of concept, so people feel like they're heard. And it's not just, hey, I provided feedback and nothing happened, right? We circle back with them. We say, here are the improvements you asked for. And it is really a repetitive and sometimes tiring process.
Yeah. And you can kind of get caught in a bit of a trap here too, because as you alluded to a moment ago, more technology keeps coming to market. It's an exciting time because for so long we were beholden to tools that didn't necessarily serve our industry the way that we expected or want them to. And many of us got caught up in that, I think, at a point where we go, oh my gosh, there's drones, there's all these different things. Yeah. And then you step back and you go, oh my gosh, like, how do I make sure that these things connect to these things? And what is my end state? And have I introduced a tool to the field that actually is burdensome for them because we didn't think of a workflow? Like, there's so many nuances. And so, like, as we kind of dial in the way everything connects, and, the platform approach is a Autodesk bias, is in there, and it's an important one to think about. But regardless of the foundation of your ecosystem, if you're not thinking about that end state, you're still going to have people manually connecting and moving data from system to system, and it might not map in a way that actually makes sense.
Yeah. Yes. And I think that is a struggle we all have. I think even when we say there is a platform, we still have difficulty with connecting data across the different tools or the suite of tools. As an industry, we don't have a data standard. I think without that, every time you're connecting a new tool, every time a owner wants to see something different or a project team calls something by a different name, but it's the same piece of information, right? We're reconfiguring those integrations, we're remapping the data, and it is a challenge, but it's also why we have the team that we have.